Welcome to Valley Newsline for the week of June the 17th, 2007. Hello, I'm your host, Ron Whitlock. Valley, Laredo, and South Texas leaders are shocked that President George Bush, their former Texas governor, is now threatening to veto a Homeland Security appropriations bill that requires the Department of Homeland Security to consult with state and local communities before spending any money on a border wall along the natural barrier of the Rio Grande River. The language including in the bill mandating that DHS consult with border communities on that border wall was added by United States Representative Ciro Rodriguez, the only border representative on the Appropriations Committee. Senator K. Billy Hutchison now is also championing similar language and initiatives requiring that local consultation be held by DHS regarding that border wall. She's doing that on the U.S. Senate side. Groups like the Texas Border Coalition, which advocates for cities and counties from El Paso to Brownsville, complain bitterly that they are not being consulted by DHS about the border wall alongside the natural barrier of the Rio Grande River. They did that on Valley Newsline. To watch that, go to valleynewsline.tv and view that June 10th program. Where does Texas former governor and current President George Bush really stand on the border wall and on amnesty? Well, first of all, President Bush did not veto but signed the Secure Fence Act, setting in motion, of course, the construction of that wall along the Rio Grande River. Now, Texas former governor says that he might even veto efforts to require that South Texas and Valley communities be consulted before the Rio Grande wall in Texas be built. South Texas' two senators, Eddie Lucio and Juan Chuy Hinojosa, on this program tell you and I and say that President Bush's wall is a bad idea whose construction will represent a horrible legacy of the Bush administration and the Bush presidency. In our interviews on this program today, from the Texas Capitol, where both senators served with Governor George Bush before he became president, they share their disappointments with his pro-wall and anti-amnesty policies. Now, Senator Juan Chuy Hinojosa from the Texas State Capitol. Would you ever have thought that Governor Bush would go to be president and be building a wall that you said is a wall of shame and to be anti-immigration, even though he is from Texas, going to retire to the Crawford Ranch here in Texas?
You know, Governor Bush was a very good governor, and he did a good job for the state of Texas. When he went to Washington, D.C., something happened. He changed. He's not the same person. I think he got pretty much sucked into the partisan politics of Washington, D.C. Our interest should always be our country first. What is in the best public interest? Not the party, whether you're Republican or Democrat. I think the majority of American people are not to the far right or to the far left. We're somewhere in between. We may lean to the right, lean to the left. There's a common sense approach to government. We have allowed the extreme groups to take over our Democratic Party and Republican Party. I think in the last election, you saw the majority of Americans speak that they are tired of partisan politics. What they want is for us to address education, health care, our economy, jobs, and take care of this immigration issue. But what you have a lot of what I call politicians who use a lot of rhetoric to improve and advance their political careers at the expense of good public policy. And President Bush has always supported immigration reform. Unfortunately, he's in a situation where he has lost a lot of credibility, he has lost a lot of influence because of the partisanship of his administration in the Congress. And I think he's been trapped, so to speak, because I truly believe that President Bush, in his heart, wants true reform to our immigration laws that will be beneficial to our country and yet not hurt families. But the reality he has to deal with is he's got a Congress and a Senate where you have a lot of senators and a lot of congressmen who have sort of just sort of stoked the flames on this issue and bringing out some of the tinges of racism that exist in this country towards Hispanics. And it's very unfortunate because this issue ought to be done in terms of what's in the best interest of our country.
Now, Senator, you're on record is being totally opposed to the border wall, the border fence along the Rio Grande, a natural boundary. Why are you so in opposition to it, and why have you aligned it as a racial issue?
Well, first of all, there's no doubt that we as a nation have the right to define and defend our borders. And what I do not agree with is that we don't need to build a wall along the Rio Grande River. There are other ways to control immigration. There are other methods to stop the flow of Mexican nationals coming into our country.
With technology, with clearing the cane, clearing the brush?
You know, we can use different methods, whether it's surveillance cameras, more boots on the ground with more Border Patrol agents, more DPS officers down along the border, an increase in some of our law enforcement forces. The federal government is already putting in thousands of new Border Patrol agents, clearing all the brush and cane along the Rio Grande River, sensors. This is a complex problem. And taking the wall, just building a wall, is really taking a hammer to an issue that needs its capital. And to me, it's very counterproductive to have a wall. And the reason I say that there's a tinge of racism on this issue is because they don't have, you know, first they were talking about terrorism, okay, to keep terrorists from coming into this country. Well, the reality is...
None of the terrorists were here illegally.
That's right.
Every terrorist who attacks the World Trade Center were here in the country illegally.
That's correct. And if we're going to start building a wall around our country, then we ought to start in Canada, where it's much easier to cross Canada than it is to cross the Mexican border. You know, and the reality is this. I think if we work together with our business people, our community leaders, with our country, Mexico, because it's our sister country, we benefit tremendously economically on both sides of the border. The people up north are a lot of people who want to build a wall are using that for scare tactics. And it is damaging to the economy of this country to think that we can cut off all workers coming in to our country to work. They're looking for work, they're looking for a job, they build up our economy. You know, I will tell you that my experience has been that the people from Mexico here without proper documentation are not here to steal, are not here to destroy. They're not terrorists. They're here to build up our economy. And they do pay their tax, fair share tax, through sales tax, and the benefits versus the negative in terms of money, they contribute over billions of dollars to our economy. And to me, it says a lot.
Many feel that these people for decades have truly been invited by our country to come over and take these jobs that nobody will do in our country and at pay that nobody in our nation would take. And by virtue of that invitation, they truly were not coming illegally. They were coming upon the invitation of our country, who provided a minimal amount of enforcement of our immigration policies because we needed those workers so badly.
That is absolutely true. If you look around, a lot of the jobs that Americans do not want to do, they are willing to do. They're willing to work from early morning to late at night, out in the hot sun, out in the fields, washing dishes.
Is there a legal term for that? Almost a quid pro quo. You come, we know it's illegal, we're going to look the other way, not put very many border patrolmen on the ground, on the border. Just come over and we'll let you come because we know you're doing a service, and our business people need you. Well, is there a business?
That's why employer sanctions is full of loopholes and not rarely enforced, because we need their workforce. They contribute tremendously to our economy. But let me make another point, and that is that a lot of people forget that the Southwest used to be part of Mexico. So that there are a lot of relationships here. A lot of us have family in Mexico. A lot of people in Mexico have families here in the United States. So we're very much bound as a family. I have uncles and aunts from Mexico. They live in Mexico. And most of them, they don't want to come and live here. They want to come and visit and they go back. You know, I was born here in the United States.
So to build a wall between you and your family members in Mexico truly would be a similarity to a Berlin Wall, which separated families in Berlin. Is that a true statement?
I think it's a very accurate and true statement. I call it the wall of shame. We don't need a wall. We can find other methods of controlling the flow of people from Mexico who are undocumented come into our country to work. People say, well, we got 14 million people who are in this country with the proper documentation. Well, we cannot kick out $14 million. We couldn't evacuate New Orleans during a hurricane, much less put 14 million people out of here. What we need to do is deal with the situation as it is. Give those people a path to citizenship. To keep track of people coming to this country to work, when they come in and when they leave, and put more law enforcement along the border to make sure that we focus on the drug cartels, focus on the criminal element, but not those families come here to work.
Texas State Senator Eddie Lucio, who worked closely with President Bush while he was governor of Texas before he was elected president of the United States, says that President Bush is probably the most ineffective and most unpopular president of the modern era. Senator Lucio issues a personal appeal during this segment directed directly to President Bush to not build the Texas Wall along the natural barrier at the Rio Grande River. Now, Senator Lucio served right here in the state capitol with Texas Governor George Bush, and at the time he was for an open society, for an immigrant-friendly society. He was holding out the hand to the Hispanic to get involved in the Republican Party to really realign American politics while Texas governor. Yet he goes to the nation's capital as President of the United States, and now he's going to be compared, as Reagan was compared, with amnesty and Mr. Gorbachev tearing on this wall. Now our former governor, President Bush, is going to have the legacy, it appears, of building a Berlin Wall type structure at the southern border of the state where he was governor and being anti-amnesty. Are you surprised at the disparity here between who you served with here and now what you see?
That's a very good observation, Ron. I am surprised. Then Governor Bush, George W., and our late Lieutenant Governor Bob Bullock formed a team of bipartisanship. They also felt very strongly that there should be local control, not only with our school systems, but also when it came to local government taking part in any process that would affect them, like this wall is affecting us. Yet he goes to Washington, and it's just like day and night. I understand that he has to work with 49 other states and 49 other types of attitudes and abilities and needs and wants.
But Senator, he's a lame duck now. He could do whatever he wanted to, whatever he thought his heart and was right to do for the state that he's declared his state. He's going to retire to the Crawford Ranch. Is he going to be welcome back in the state of Texas based on the legacy he's leaving?
And you know, I think unfortunately at this point that would be a horrible icing on a cake that would seem to me that would paint a horrible picture of probably the most ineffective, the most unpopular president ever to serve in our era, in our lifetime. And that's too bad, because he happens to be a Texas native, and we consider him our president from the state of Texas. And I think that's gonna put Texas pretty far back when it comes to being able to take part in having one of his own in any presidential campaign in the future. I hope that we can work ourselves out of that in the future, but it's going to be tough. And I think the party politics obviously has taken its toll. And unfortunately, the politics of Texas and the politics of the country are two different animals. And he walked into a situation where he couldn't do anything but follow a national type attitude instead of a Texas, a theme of bipartisanship.
That was former Governor Bush and now President George Bush right there. What would you tell him regarding the two items, and that is amnesty and the border wall? What would you tell President Bush?
Mr. President, both of us come from our beloved state of Texas, a state that is so big and diversified, but yet we're so proud of being Texas and being Texans. And I think that one of the things here in the Senate, as you well remember, that we had was a bipartisanship and a deliberate chamber like none other in the country and the world. I would ask you to consider what the people of Texas are saying. People in every area of the state have joined with us in Deep South Texas along the border against the building of this wall. They believe that we must continue to establish strong relationships with a country we have known as our neighbors, Mexico, for generations. We have built strong, positive relationships, and they've become our incredible trading partner that have boosted our economy. And nothing but good can happen in the future if we continue to do things in a very positive manner. All these bridges, 23 plus, 24 plus international bridges, join us with Mexico. This wall would simply divide us and would cause irreparable harm, in my point of view, and in the view of so many, not only along the border, but throughout the state of Texas. Our leadership, especially that of Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst, have taken a stand against this wall, and I would hope that you would listen carefully to what your people in Texas are saying about such a wall. That this could do nothing but harm us in so many ways when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish here. I commend you for all that the government is doing to fight terrorism and making sure that our nation is free and without harm. But when it comes to illegal immigration, make it known to everyone in Washington that all of us support the curbing of illegal immigration through the means that we have had over the years, and that's our Border Patrol, our immigration officers, but not a wall. We, in the 21st century, do not want to divide ourselves and separate ourselves from the rest of the world, especially our neighbors to the south, Mexico, that we have so many commonalities with.
Texas Senator Eddie Lucio speaking to his former colleague as governor of Texas, George Bush, now sitting in the White House. Here's what Eddie Lucio III said about the building of a wall, the building of a fence along a natural barrier, the Rio Grande River, is in reality the wrong message to be sending to our neighbor to the south in Mexico. Here's those remarks.
The impact on our state in terms of tourist dollars, in terms of investment dollars, overnight would just take a dramatic hit by that wall. And I'm really concerned about the message and the symbolism behind a wall. And if you look at history, walls have not fared well in terms of international relations with those who construct those walls, nor has it fared well with the society's feeling as a whole about the people on both sides of that wall. So let's work and invest instead of putting a wall which has a negative impact on our economy, creates a symbolism that can hurt generations of international relations between the United States and Mexico. And face it, the symbolism that it's sending to the world, not just to Mexico, is that we're elitists, we are in prejudice against our neighbors, and we're not willing to invest in countries the way they've invested in us.
So, Senator, your own son really made the remarks that we at Valley Newsline felt were the most conducive to the reality of the situation, and that is, it's not a structure, it's a message, and it's a wrong message to send to our neighbor to the south who's just about elected a leftist president in the last election. We have 6 years now to show that we're a friendly, inviting nation for commerce, friendship, familial relations, and that sort of thing. And if we don't get it right in the next 6 years, we may have a leftist president the next time.
He's right. This would be a terrible negative message that we send not only to our neighbors to the south, but to people in our own country who would feel that this would be the wrong message as well. We have so many roots in Mexico. You know, there are just literally hundreds of thousands of Americans living in Mexico, in Monterrey, in Guadalajara, Mexico City. What do you say to them? when we try to segregate ourselves from a country that they're living in, that they care to retire in, that they probably have family connections with, and economic connections as well. So, I think we need to put a stop to this nightmare once and for all, and I think the person that can do that is obviously our Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, who is from Texas, that should know better.
From our ValleyNewsline.tv feedback line, we received this response from a viewer. I say build the fence. It seems to me that no legitimate business goes down on either side of the Rio Grande River banks exclusive of farming, ranching, hunting, and some marginal fishing. I say build the fence. From Eduardo R. Estrada, Edinburgh, Texas. Homeland Security Secretary Michael Chertoff is responsible for securing the Texas border, and through FEMA, also part of his department, in cleaning it up following a hurricane or tropical storm. Clearing out brush, cane, and other debris would help Border Patrol agents and a virtual fence be more effective. Plus, it would also protect billions of dollars in federally insured homes and businesses in greater South Texas along the Rio Grande. Senator Eddie Lucio continues.
We're located geographically in an area that we could call harm's way when it comes to a major hurricane. I remember Beulah. Flooding is a major issue. We should obviously do everything we can to work with our local units of government, but we should call on our federal government for emergency appropriations to be able to prepare. Nothing like preventive medicine and preventive measures taking place before something catastrophic hits us. So I do favor the cleaning of the river. I think that's the way to go. The cleaning of the river would afford us not only a cleaner water, a better environment, but it would also help our Border Patrol when it comes to enforcing illegal immigration, because you would have a clear river. There's a lot of win-win situations on that. But I also agree that there are many drainage ditches and flood areas, zones that are clogged up and need to be cleaned. So I think we need to really hurriedly get to work on that, because quite frankly, hurricane season is upon us, and it has been estimated that we probably will have one of the worst hurricanes ever in our history, and let's hope that that's not the case.
So as FEMA is classifying the valley as a bad insurance risk because of these substandard levees in Hidalgo County predominantly, in the upper part of your district, there is an opportunity today, soon, to get Senator Cornyn involved. He's looking at this as an option because it also fits in with Homeland Security. Get the cane out, get all the shrubbery out. It helps Border Patrol find those who are coming into our country illegally, and it gets us ready for hurricane season. It's a great way to spend federal and state dollars.
Absolutely, and that's something that needs to take place immediately. I will be
what can
calling.
you do to help him?
I will be calling Congressman Henry Cuellar, who represents part of the Valley, who is a former colleague of mine in the House of Representatives here in the state of Texas. He was my roommate back in 1987, 88, 89, and I will
so you know things about him that nobody else knows. And you have the goods on him, huh?
I have the goods on Henry. I will be asking him to see if we can have a joint hearing of the International Relations and Trade Committee that I serve, that I chair, and also his subcommittee on Homeland Security. Hopefully we can invite state and federal officials to join in that meeting to discuss all these issues, and it'll be done pretty quick, hopefully latter part of June, early part of July, and then also affording the public an opportunity to come before our committee to discuss these issues extensively, once and for all, to outline for everyone what needs to be done, what should be done.
Thank you for joining us here on Valley Newsline. Have an opinion? Let us hear from you by going to valleynewsline.tv. Click on Email Us. Till next time, adios.